Hello friends, let's take a look at the VIX, the fear index. It has been right at the teens, which is a marker. You can see it's right here. I open it, I am plotting it in Yahoo Finance, which is a marker that all is going well in the markets. Basically, we can go to sleep, everything is fine. And, we can look at it, over 6 months, and we see that, we've had, last time it was at this low was in mid-April. So it's gone up, and now we're back to a very low level, means everything is well. So what I want to do here is plot this, get the data, the VIX, plot it in Jupyter, plot it in Python using a Jupyter notebook from scratch so you can see how it's done, and then overlay the S&P 500. And once we got the chart done, I'll talk a little bit about what the VIX means and why it's important. But let's first, for those who are in a hurry, just get the charting done, and then we'll talk about the VIX. So welcome to the Viral Mail Show. My name is Manuel Amonatigi. You can find all my talks at viralmail.com. This talk will be filed under, you go to viralmail.com channels and finance, and there you will see all my videos on finance. Most of them have source code, so when you click on there, you'll be able to find the source code. This one will have source code as well, and you'll find that in the description of the video. Right now we're going live, but once it's uploaded, you'll get the code. So please sign up for my newsletter right here in the middle of the page, so you can get early access to material and know what's going on, what I'm doing, and subscribe to the channel and give it some thumbs up. It's always appreciated. Okay, so let's start. I opened a brand new clean Jupyter notebook. Please do the same thing, and we're gonna start. I'm gonna start cutting and pasting some basic things. Nothing that you have to worry about. I like to start all my notebooks with the logos and my book like that. I will upload this source code once it's finished. So let's bring in a bunch of libraries, a bunch of imports, just basic things. Matplotlib, where obviously we're going to be doing a lot of visualization. We will bring pandas and numpys, of course, datetime, and we're going to kind of tone down some of the warnings. Now, I like to have a path to my market data, and I'm going to show you how to download that in a second, but just let me talk about the path. This allows me to kind of keep everything in separate folders, and I can go back, dial back up, and automatically see exactly like it was at a certain period of time. And I downloaded everything for today, so that's my path. So let's download the VIX and the S&P 500 because we want to overlay the S&P 500. So it's super easy. Go to finance.yahoo.com, and the VIX is caret VIX. You can check that it's correct. It says CBOE volatility index. That's what we want. You click here, and we can see it's right at 13 or 13.26. Hit the historical button. You'll see a date range here. Hopefully you can see this, and hit max. Done. Apply, and then download. That download button will download it on your local machine, right? Apply and download. I don't know if you're seeing my mouse here in this live scenario, but hopefully you can. There's right in the middle of the page there, and the download right underneath, and that will download it on your local machine. Let's do the same thing for the S&P 500. So we're going to go caret GSPC, which is the index symbol, and here it is. Same thing. Hit historical data. Scroll up, you'll see the date range. Go for max. Actually, let me remove my head here. Go for max, right? And you see you get data from 1950 to today, so 70 years of data. Hit done, apply, and right underneath the apply button, the download. And that's going to download it also on your local machine. Make sure those files are in the same folder you are running the Jupyter Notebook, or that you have a path to market data like I'm doing right now. So now we have those two data sets. We have all the data we need. I have my path. Hopefully, I think the path is correct. Let's start bringing some data in. So the first thing we can do is let's name it S&P 500 DF equal pandas, right? PD, because we declared it as pandas as PD. Read underscore CSV, right? That's your typical way of bringing comma delimited files to your machine. And path to market plus, and the symbol we want here is, let's start with S&P 500. So it's exactly the same way it was downloaded to your local machine, GSPC. And make sure it works. Yep, nope, it doesn't work. What's the problem here? Let's see what's going on. GSPC does not exist. Okay, so let me double check that I got the naming of my folder correct. Easy to do. Oh, I always do that. I forgot to put the extension. So the file is actually there. I just checked, but it's CSV. There we go. Okay, so now we have our data. Let's do a few more things here. The first thing is, and I'm actually going to import it because I always do this. We need to cast a date to a date time. It comes out of the box as an object, and Matplotlib needs it as a correctly formatted date. And let's just see what the data we're looking at as we move along. So here you see, just like we downloaded, it gives us a date, an open, high, low, close, adjusted close, and volume. We're not going to use these, but we get all of these. So now we have the date correctly formatted. Let's do a few more things. One thing I like to do is, keeping it simple, let's just keep a few of these. Let's keep the date. It's important, right? We need the date. And let's keep the adjusted close. The adjusted close is the better close because if there's any dividends or anything that was done overnight, it's going to be accounted for. And then let's call columns. And let's rename them. I like to rename my adjusted close to something that makes sense. In this case, I'm going to go with S&P SP 500 close. And let's kind of load that in memory, make sure it works. And now suddenly, right, it's a lot easier to work with, a lot less data. The one thing I like to do also, let me cut and paste it here because it's tedious to type, is to print the min and max date, just to see what we have, right? So here we confirm that we only have 1 year of data. Why do we only have 1 year of data? I think I only downloaded 1 year of data. Let's see. Let me quickly download the full set. I'm going to fix that in a second. That's easy to do. We want to have as much data as we can, and 1 year is not going to be very interesting. Oh yeah, that's what I did. Okay, so I'm gonna delete that, fix that. Give me a quick second. That's why we like to print this. So let me try it again. Now I just corrected the issue. Why? There. Now this is what we want to see. 1950 to today. So right, we have 70 years of data. This is phenomenal. And we're quite not done with preparing our data. There's always a bunch of things we have to do. One thing that's important, and I think I failed to do that in the past, is to sort things. Sort it by date in ascending order, because when you work with moving averages or weighted moving averages, whatever it is that you're working with, you may, if you're feeding it in the moving average in the wrong order, if it's by descending order instead of ascending order, you will mess the moving average up. It'll be useless. And sometimes you mix different data sets where one is sorted in ascending order, one is descending order. Just reset, make sure everything is in ascending order off the bat by date, and you'll be fine. And let's see what we have. Make sure it looks good. It looks good. And if you can also look at the tail of the data to make sure we have today's data, it looks good. So unfortunately, we need to do the exact same thing for the VIX, but that's easy. I'm just going to cut and paste, and let's name this in a way that makes sense, right? VIX _ DF. I'm simply going to cut and paste over everything because it's still, they're both coming from Yahoo Finance, so they're in exact same format. So obviously we're gonna, there, and we're gonna rename this as VIX close. And let's see what we have. Make sure it works. And the VIX, we don't have as much data, but we still have a good amount of data. Good, good, good. Everything is looking good. Okay, so I can put my head back here. Let's see. Yeah, we can run this. I'll put my head back for a little bit. As I'm still experimenting with these live videos, so we'll see how it looks. I'll look afterwards. So let's see. We have the VIX, we have everything. So now we're ready to start doing some very basic visualization. The first thing we can do, right, is simply plot it with Matplotlib. Actually, one thing I like to do is to take a copy of the VIX and the S&P 500. So whatever you're working with, make a temporary copy, and like that allows you to kind of cut things, slice and dice, look at specific dates, and always have the original, the full data set, all ready to go. Okay. And now let's start plotting things. So I'm gonna this is basic plot stuff. I'm just going to copy it. I like to resize my plots so it fits perfectly the Jupyter notebooks, and a 16:8 is just perfect. And now we can simply call plot. So let's see. Let's start by plotting the VIX, okay? Because that's kind of the star of the show. So we are going to go VIX, the date. Matplotlib wants the date first, and VIX, oops, and the close, which is the last print. In this case, is VIX close. And we could simply run it and it will work, right? We now have, here is the VIX, but we're going to do a lot better than that. Let's before we talk about it, let's fix it up a bit. Let's, for example, we're going to color it, color blue. Let's go color red. And then we're going to add a label so that it's labeled in the chart. Of course, this one's going to be called VIX. Okay, so now we have this, right? A few things you can do is we can, force the legend to be somewhere specific. Let's say plot it on the lower right. So now I have it there. Hopefully you can't see it because I'm there. Let me hide my head. Here, right? In the lower right of the chart, you see the label. That's a nice way of forcing things to be in a certain place. And I'm going to also add a title. Now, let me just copy and paste this. So this is a nice way of, actually, I should be doing this here. This is wrong. There. We want to use a temporary, not the originals. And here I'm plotting the VIX and the S&P 500. We haven't put the S&P 500. We're going to do that in a second. And I also like to plot the end date so that we know a little bit what the end date of the data is. In case you forgot or you did an error like I did, you may not have gotten the latest data. You'll have a flag saying, "Oh, wait a minute, this is not the data I wanted. I wanted something else," right? Okay, now we're looking good. One more thing. Let's add a grid. A grid kind of puts a grid on the chart, and it's just a lot easier to kind of follow the y-axis, the x-axis, right? You can see exactly, okay, this is between, it just helps a little bit to see, to visualize things. So now for the fun part, we're going to add a second axis. So it's going to be axis 2, and that is calling the AX object that the axis object that we declared earlier, and you simply go twin x. It's that simple. And that adds us a second axis, and you can cut and paste this line. And of course, we're going to change it to S&P 500 temp, and this is SP 500, and this should be SP 500 close. Okay, looking good. Here we're going to put the, let's say, lower left. Yeah, that works. And then just for good measure, you could put plot show, though we don't really need it. And let's run this. And let me remove the title here. We don't need it. And let's take a peek at this. Oh, we don't want this in red. Let's color this in blue, or actually black. Okay, so a few things, right? A few things that we notice here. For starters, we have more S&P 500 data than we do of VIX data, right? So that we're going to have to kind of deal with that. So let's deal with that right now. It looks like we have data from 1990. So one thing we can do is, because we're taking these handy little temporary files of the original, we can create a cutoff date, right? So it looks like it was 1990. So we're going to cut it off, and simply then we kind of take subsets of our data set, right? We go subset. That's trivial to do. We want this to be bigger than our cutoff date, right? And we do the same thing for the S&P 500. Okay, let's see what that looks now. Okay, as expected, right? We now have, we more or less have the same time range. And just off the bat, we're going to do a few more things. But the VIX is a fear index. So it basically kind of, finds out if there's fear in the market. As fear, you can see, means it spikes. So the cutoff is, people say, in the teens. So teens would be 13, right? I usually put it around 20. I don't think it really matters. So one more line before we move on is to add in. So we're playing with two axes, right? We have two y-axes. We have on one y-axis we have the VIX, which is right here, and on the other y-axis we have on the right here of the chart we have the S&P 500. So we want to put a line at the teens on the VIX axis. So you can't do it here down. You can't do it down here, right? You got to do it up here. So I'm gonna go right here, and I'm gonna add a horizontal line. It's gonna make a horizontal line at 20, and we're gonna put this one in blue, and we're gonna kind of arrange a little, play around with the line width and light style. And look at that. Now we have that marker. Here, anything below the 20 or the teens, however you want to look at it, means the market are calm. Everything is fine. Above means things are turbulent. People are using the VIX usually as insurance. So actually, let me give you the, from my book here, the little book of fundamental indicators. I'll talk about this briefly at the end, but let me read you what the definition here. The VIX tracks the option prices on the 30-day implied volatility of the options of the S&P 500. That's why we plotted the S&P 500. And to keep things simple, whenever the options get volatile, when the markets get erratic, people are worried, people don't know where the markets are going, the VIX goes up. Okay. That's exactly what we see, right? So here we have the dot-com crash in 2000. Look at the VIX. The VIX was way above the teens for a few years, right? That just spells trouble. And here, the dot-com crash, so the Great Recession, the real estate crash. Look at that spike. But it was also above the teens right before or right at the crash. So people were already starting to worry. And then we have a few spikes here and here. I think this was right around maybe the elections, and at mini crashes. We've had one right at the end of at the beginning of this year, right? And you can see these spikes. Right now we are well under the teens. And this I put it at the 20, but you could change that and put it at the 30 line. Let's do that right now, actually. Just to, you can put it wherever you want. We're going to put it at 13 instead of 20. Make it a little more aggressive, but that really means everything is fine, everything is fine, everything is fine here, right? And we're now back into everything is fine territory, right? So there it is. We've plotted the VIX. The VIX is the fear index. It's used as insurance when the markets get volatile. It doesn't mean the markets are going to crash. It just means the markets are getting volatile, and people tend to hedge their portfolio, so they buy put options. The put options get expensive. When everybody's running to get put options, it means it gets expensive, and that's what they see in the S&P 500 options. So we plotted the S&P 500. So the S&P 500 is one of the best indicators out there. It's the economic barometer of the world. I think 80% of the total equity in the U.S. is represented in the S&P 500, and 30% of that is international money. Means it's even representing not just the U.S. but outside of the U.S. So it's a phenomenal barometer. And when on top of it you add the VIX, which kind of captures the emotion, right, behind people trading the S&P 500. This is huge. Just those two data sources, the VIX and the S&P 500 together are just a phenomenal indicator of how things are going. So right now, even though people are a bit worried up here because we've just been having this huge leg up, right? So I'm looking from 2008 to like today, the markets have just been, 2009, let's say, roaring upwards, and people are a little worried. But right now, right, the VIX is under the 13. It's right at 13. So not much to worry about. But keep an eye on this, right? Because here too, as you can see, right before, let's say around 2007, there were times when we were clearly all complacent, saying everything is fine, and then the VIX went up, and we had a huge crash. The 2008 crash was huge. It lasted a couple years, and it was just brutal. And look how the spike of the VIX did, right? The VIX confirmed, people were worried. These were turbulent times. Okay, so thanks for watching. Again, I like to plug my books at the end of my videos. This is the little book of fundamental indicators, probably the most related of my books to what I just showed here. And here we cover things like the S&P 500, the VIX, the unemployment, a lot of real estate. I think we do gold. I think a bunch of things, and we learn how to plot them in Jupyter, in Python, using Jupyter Notebooks. So every chapter has a corresponding Jupyter downloadable file where you can follow along and just kind of learn to read these fundamental indicators. They're free, they're easy to get, and they allow you to kind of keep a pulse on what's going on around you and just be ready when things are starting to get funny. Thanks for watching.